Guys, I have a confession to make. I'm sorry. I wish I could have told you earlier, but you deserve to know the truth. Alright, here it goes. I'm not a drone in real life.
What?
Oh my god!
Ah, JK, you thought. Come on, why would I be a human? That would be asinine. In truth, I'm a very real drone, making my very real theories in my very real basement. But a few weeks ago, N and I had a conversation that made me reflect a little. It's true that I spend a lot of time making theory videos, and that I should go outside the mansion and interact with humans from time to time. However, there's just a little problem in the way, and that little problem is called robo-racism. Hey, Louisa? That dress doesn't suit you.
Oh, hell no!
So, in order to go outside and be respected by these inferior carbon-based life forms, I devised a genius plan. On the few occasions I go outside, I put on my flesh suit, I change up my voice filter, and thus I can mingle with humans while I explore the world. For example, last time out, I took up a flight to Florida, and believe it or not, I met a famous superstar.
And that's Malibu's finest. You should seriously consider becoming a screenwriter. What in the actual fuck?
Good day, fellow 40 meat bag. Do you have games on your phone? Oh, and I got myself a human job too. Yes, you heard that right. I now work in a research center, doing a PhD in physics, and I got to admit, working there has its perks. For instance, I can do videos about black holes without the need to consult any prior reference. Unfortunately though, now that my robo brain has expanded with the power of science, I cannot look at murder drones in the same way. Having scientific knowledge allows me to appreciate all the little details in the show, but in fairness, it also makes me see that not everything in the show adheres to reality. So, that's what we are going to do today. Yes, we are going to apply IRL physics to a fictional show about robots that kill each other. Just for fun. Perhaps we might learn something cool along the ride, and it will let us appreciate all the details of the show. We are going to explore all the inner workings of Copper 9, and we will discover just how a little narrative plot hole can flip the entire show upside down. Alright, everyone ready? Then let's begin.
Hang on a minute. Lord Drone, you seriously were going to make a video without me?
Oh, this is not a theory video. I thought it wouldn't interest you.
Come on, you know I'm always interested in whatever you have to say. Besides, Tessa is worried about you. She feels that you will eventually blah blah blah, and that you will blah 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 blah, and that Louise will blah 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 someday. That's why I blah blah. Well, are we starting?
Yes, excuse me. Sorry, I had something in my robo eye. Right, let's begin our quest to dissect the science of this show. How about we start with a full explanation of Copper 9 and its surroundings. The Copper system is, of course, completely made up. However, the Proxima system, which appears in this episode 6 map, does exist in real life. Assuming that this map is homogeneous in scale, we can use a handy rule of thirds to approximately pinpoint the distance between the Copper system and Earth. Here is the complete episode 6 map. And yes, I counted all the dashes between systems frame by frame. So, we know that the Proxima system is about 4.25 light years away from Earth. There are a total of 8 dashes between our solar system and the Proxima system, which gives us a scale of roughly 0.53 light years per dash in this map. Now, the Copper system is located a total of 69.5 dashes away. Applying the scale we just calculated, that will give us a total distance of 36.89 light years away. I really do hope the J.C. Jensen spaceships have some sort of hyperspeed travel. That is 349 trillion kilometers between the two systems. Or 217 trillion miles, for all of you Americans still stuck in the 19th century. Anyway, realistic distance or not, let's zoom into our galactic map to see how the Copper system is arranged. Excluding any extra planets, this would be how the Copper system stands with the evidence of this show. It has only 1 star, thanks to this scene in episode 1, and since these 2 celestial bodies are so close to Copper 9, you wouldn't be at fault for thinking that Copper 9 has 2 moons. After all, they do have a similar soil and craters to that of our own moon. The thing is, I suspect that there was a mishap by the showrunners here. Moons aren't massive enough to organize their surrounding matter in accretion disks like this one. Accretion disks are actually characteristic of big planets, such as Saturn, Uranus, or even Neptune. So, according to IRL science, this object should be, in fact, a planet, even though it is portrayed as a moon by the show instead. Interestingly though, if we were to treat this object like a planet, and since it is so close to Copper 9, we would effectively have 2 planets forming a binary system, rotating in unison around a common star, an arrangement that can be found for stars. But when it comes to planets in real life, we have yet to find something like this outside the realm of theory. Okay then, so, we've calculated where Copper 9 is approximately positioned relative to Earth. What else can we gather about this planet? We know that at the present time, the show takes place in the year 3071. And how many days is a year in Copper 9? Well, we have the missing posters in episode 3, which depict dates just like our calendar would. So, it is implied that a full Copper 9 rotation around the sun would take about 365 days. However, because of the episode 4 teaser title, we know that the Copper 9 calendar has at least 13 months. Could be a few months more than that though, we don't know just yet. What we do know is that this calendar in episode 4 has a name for one of these extra months, Sarah Morris, which roughly translates to something along the lines of deathly evening from Italian. As you can see, this 1 month has a total of 32 days. Adding it up to the tally, and taking the possibility of further months in the calendar, a full rotation around the Copper Sun would take Copper 9 a total of 397 days or more. In any case, that doesn't necessarily mean that a day in Copper 9 lasts the same as a day on Earth. If Copper 9's rotation period is faster than that of Earth's, which is to say, its days and nights are shorter, then the year 3071 that we see in the show is ahead of the present year on Earth. However, if its rotation period is slower, and its days and nights are longer as a result, then the year 3071 is behind the present Earth year. The problem is, we can't tell Copper 9's rotation speed just yet with the evidence of the show so far. That question is likely going to remain unanswered for the rest of the season. Alright then, we have located Copper 9 in both space and time. With that being said, how about we dig in and try to iron out how Copper 9 was faring before the core's collapse. We know that this exoplanet was inhabited by humans. We had urban settlements lying around, as well as research areas, a power plant, and an underground lab. Among other directives, the Cabin Fever Labs was also dedicated to keeping track of the planet's core, as we can see from the monitors lying around indicating a core collapse. So, all of this is evidence enough that Copper 9 has likely been terraformed by humans at some point. Terraforming is an extremely complex process by which we could theoretically make a planet fitting for human life. This transformation can take centuries or even millennia, but let's give J.C. Jensen the benefit of the doubt and assume they were competent enough to do so quickly. Many factors are involved in terraforming, but in this video, I'm going to focus on 3 of them. The first main factor for terraforming is, you guessed it, water. Fortunately though, Copper 9 has water to spare. We can see oceans in this faraway shot in episode 1, and additionally, we can find frozen lakes in episode 4, as well as these clouds by the end of the episode. These are all indicative that Copper 9 has plenty of water, even after the core's collapse. Whether these water bodies are contaminated with other substances though, that's another story. The cool thing about this is that Copper 9's oceans have an extremely invaluable role in keeping the planet's temperature stable. Much like on Earth, Copper 9's currents would distribute warm water to northern and southern areas that would otherwise be really cold, thus regulating part of the planet's climate. The second main factor, of course, is a breathable atmosphere. Perhaps Copper 9's original atmosphere wasn't initially fitting for human life, but we can take a few steps to make it so. By releasing the right mix of greenhouse gases, we can alter the air composition. This would make the temperature of the planet warmer, and additionally, we could charge up the atmosphere with oxygen and carbon dioxide, so that plant life can develop nicely. Perhaps this process to change the planet's atmosphere wasn't done to completion. We do see plant life hanging around Copper 9, even after the core's collapse. This means there are still traces of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the air. Unfortunately though, no episode has shown any human in Copper 9 without a breathing mask or helmet of some sort. While we have this scene in episode 6.
You're a mammoth! Too tall, handsome, it's toxic.
It's hard to tell whether the atmosphere was ever breathable before the core's collapse, or whether this planet's inhabitants needed some additional support. The third main factor for terraforming is a stable climate and temperature to develop biological life. Due to the oceanic and atmospheric processes I mentioned, climate in Copper 9 before the core collapsed was likely warmer than what we see now. However, there is also a very important component in any planet's climate. What about land? How do Copper 9's geophysical process affect its climate? Well, if the planet's core activity is halted, the entire planet takes a hit, transforming into a winter wasteland as the land's interactions with the climate are cut off. It seems that J.C. Jensen was well aware of this, allocating quite some resources into maintaining the planet's core stable. Unfortunately, this is where the show stops being scientifically sound. Sure, once Copper 9's core collapses in the show, we get the white wonderland we expect. However, the core's collapse does bring an unwelcome guest into the planet. An invisible enemy that not only would be responsible for the death of many life forms around the planet, but realistically speaking, would also decommission every single drone we see in the show at the present time. Oh, and Tessa, of course. Tessa is dead. In fact, everyone is dead.
Everyone dies, including me?
Including you, yes.
To answer that, we need to talk about
electromagnetism.
And if you thought my other tangents were complicated, just you wait.
Trust me, it's simpler than it looks. In order to explain how Copper 9's core collapse could render you completely lifeless, how about we do a little experiment?
No.
How about we blow up? Excuse me?
I said no. No more experiments. Lord Drone, this is a PSA. Your experiments are starting to get a little extreme. I'm getting worried someone might get really hurt.
Don't worry, I promise this experiment will be 100% harmless.
You sure?
Yes, of course. I just need to make a phone call to a friend from work first. Hello, it's me. Yes, it is time. Execute Order 42.
You what?
What was that? What is Order 42?
I told you, don't worry about it.
There's nowhere left to run. It's time to end this. Fire!
This is officially the last time I trust you on anything you say.
Come on, I kept my word. You are completely unharmed. By the way, check out this cool feat I just got from the Earth's core. It can help us explain what's really going on inside an exoplanet like Copper 9. Inside a planet's core, there are a lot of metallic atoms mingling together. Because they are metallic, this means that there are many loose electrons inside the planet's core, moving at high speeds inside. Now, according to the laws of electromagnetism, an electric charge that moves at high speeds can generate a small magnetic field on its own. Of course, the compounded effect of trillions and trillions of electrons is much higher, and so, a planet like Copper 9 is able to generate a planet-wide magnetic field. In astrophysics, we call this huge magnetic umbrella the magnetosphere. Why is the magnetosphere so important? You see, every so often, The sun irradiates a whole bunch of invisible charged particles that come into contact towards the earth. This constant barrage of harmful radiation is called the solar wind. Along with that, we also have solar flares, which happen whenever the sun's activity increases. Not to mention, we also have to account for any possible cosmic rays from faraway solar systems. All of these unwanted guests could render the entire planet lifeless as we know it, causing irreversible mutations as the solar radiation comes into contact with any life forms. These mutations would have a similar effect as radioactive exposure and would range from giving you genetic anomalies to slowly giving you multiple cancers to ripping away the fabric of your body over time. It seems that we would want to keep all these harmful particles at bay, and that's where the magnetosphere comes in. It acts like a huge barrier, deflecting all of these harmful particles elsewhere. The best part about the magnetosphere is that it is a self-sustained process. So long as the planet's core remains hot and stable, this shield will stay active for protection. But having said that, what happens if Copper 9's core collapses by some chance? What could be the direct consequences? First off, the atmosphere is now completely exposed to all solar radiation, which would weaken it away in the span of many years. Along with the destruction of all geophysical processes, this causes the planet to freeze over. Aside from that, as I said before, biological life would be wiped out as we know it as well. The life forms that don't freeze away would instead die a horrible death by radioactive mutation. And this is where Tessa comes in. Tessa is completely dead here. Let's just say, there is a really good reason astronauts have these clunky spacesuits. With such a slim spacesuit like the one she wears, the solar wind can easily penetrate through Tessa like invisible bullets, ripping her integrity and her organs to shreds. So yeah, Tessa is dead, but there's actually more. Because this heavy electromagnetic radiation now runs rampant among the planet, this has devastating effects in anything that runs on electricity. Electronic systems would be rendered useless, ranging from computers, automatic doors systems, and, well, just about every single worker drone that appears in the show. If we had to describe it, it would be as if these worker drones would be hit over and over with this overpowered ass electromagnetic gun. Either they all remain in a coma forever, or their systems flat out fail in a fatal error. But hey, on the flip side, now that there is no magnetosphere, we should be seeing Aurora Borealis everywhere in Copper 9.
Aurora Borealis?
Aurora Borealis!
Auroras happen because of the interaction between solar wind and the atmosphere in the poles, where the magnetosphere is weaker. Now that there is no magnetosphere, you should be seeing them everywhere you go. That's kind of pretty, I guess. If you're somehow still alive, I guess you could go see them from time to time.
I guess I never thought of it that way. Lord Drone, this is really cool and all, but now that you're saying this, I do have a question. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Yes, obviously. If the loss of Copper 9's magnetosphere is so crucial, how is it that Tessa and all the drones are still alive? There is no evidence to answer this in the show, but we can try to come up with an answer that fits within its narrative. For instance, we could say that the worker drones set up an artificial magnetosphere after the core's collapse. This magnetic field could be run by a series of powerful generators set around the many Copper 9 colonies in such a way that neither Tessa nor the drones suffer from the effects of heavy solar radiation. This would additionally explain why plant life is still lingering about the planet after the core's collapse as well. Again, I highly doubt the show will address this nitpick at this stage of season 1, but hey, if they actually do, I will actually eat my Roboshu.
There's one thing I disagree with though. The title of this video, if we ignore the whole magnetic storm thing, isn't the show deeply rooted in science? I don't think it's fair to say that murder drones doesn't make scientific sense.
Honestly, I wanted to make things interesting with this title. This show actually has a baffling level of detail, from everything we've covered today, down to the little equations in episode 4. This is one of the many reasons I love the show so much. In fact, I don't think there is anything else that doesn't make sense from a physical standpoint. You know what? I'm going to ignore that. Maybe we will talk about it some other day. Alright, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. It has come to my attention that we are just about to hit 1,000 members of the Tinfoil Hat crew. At this rate, we may finally be able to overthrow all of those boring oligarchs from this mansion someday. But until that day comes, I'm going to be preparing something special for you folks very soon. Stay tuned for that. Right then. See ya.